I finally got a chance to sit down and watch the press conference with Ray Agnew and Brad Holmes, almost 40 minutes. And I forgot how long it's been since we've seen Brad. Brad's time is the off season. We barely see Dan. And then we see Dan a little bit during the owners meetings and all that stuff. And then it's back to Brad. And then the draft is Brad. And then he disappears really once OTAs start. Minicamp OTAs, he disappears. And every year before the season, him and Ray get in front of the media. And I don't know about y'all, man, but it seems like just yesterday. Like they were having, I remember exactly where I was. I was on Ford Road in Wyoming listening to the last time that these two gentlemen did this. But here are some takeaways. I got my notepad, got my son's old writing book, and I've got 2 pages of notes that I took. The first thing that Brad said, and these won't be in any particular order, but he talked about Hendon Hooker and Jake Fromm. And somebody asked him about knowing how Jake had a small sample size and basically how he was able to push out Nate Sudfeld. Jake Fromm, I know we get criticized a lot. Like, I give y'all a hard time, you give me a hard time, but some things you see, some things you can see. And even though we don't know the ins and outs of the team, we don't see them every day, we don't see them in practice, there's a little bit we can pick up on, right? That basically Hendon, they were confident in him to go number 2. He just needed more reps. And they felt confident enough after that last preseason game when he got essentially the whole game to play. He came out with 8 minutes left, but they were confident once he started getting those reps that he could be number 2. And Jake, if Jake doesn't come in with 8 minutes to go and look like a seasoned veteran, he's not on this team. Sudfeld is still on this team. So this guy, you're talking about working with the opportunity you have, came in here and essentially in 8 minutes pushed out Sudfeld. He did say that it was some other stuff that he was doing off the field as well that kind of was like, man, we might have to take a look at this guy. But when he came in, limited sample size, limited time with the team, and just was shredding him up in the last 8 minutes, that essentially put Nate Sudfeld out the door. And how he was able to impress in a short time is what Brad Holmes said. The 53-man roster, they talked about the approach. They've been using the same approach to, somebody asked, like, how would you be able to, will you be able to win the Super Bowl with this roster? And they said that we've been using the same approach since we got here, which is, he's been saying that since he got here. I may not be in love with it. That's why the thumbnail says question everything, but trust the process. Whether or not y'all believe it or not, I trust Brad Holmes. He is the best general manager we've seen. But just like any one of us, he does miss. He's imperfect. And as a fan, I'm going to have something to say about that, right? But that's just where we are. And I hope that you question everything as well. It's okay to trust, but don't even trust me blindly. Like, you got to research everything and see things with your own eyes, right? But that they've been using that same approach and they're going to keep using it. It's something else I wanted to talk about too as we get a little further. This was one of my favorite points. JMO. They asked about Jameson Williams. Agnew went first, and he said the most impressive thing was JMO's growth, that his route running is better. He's catching it with his hands. Brad Holmes said something that really told us a lot. It told me a lot about, like, Jameson Williams and Brad's thought of how he's building this team. He said that Jameson getting hurt. Now, of course, he did not say that it was a good thing and all that, but sometimes things can happen to us and be blessings. That Jameson's downtime of being hurt year 1 and being suspended year 2 was really a blessing in disguise. And here's probably my favorite part of the whole press conference. Well, one of them is he said that he talked about JMO's maturity and how JMO himself said how he's grown since he's been here. And, quote, Brad Holmes said, quote, he needed to grow up a little bit, end quote. Like, so all the things that you and I were saying outside of him being a bust when he first got here, we were right. We were right, man. All of us were right when we talked about JMO's maturity level. And I can see JMO has matured just from the stuff that he's saying. He never really was an I guy, but it's all about the team. How can he make his team better? Even his confidence, his demeanor, it looks to me completely different from year 1. So I love that basically Jameson Williams, he was that guy when they drafted him, but he's even more that guy now with being able to kind of marinate, mature, and grow up a little bit. I like that. This was another part that I liked as well. This is what I got from it. Maybe I'm being a little biased. You tell me what you think. He was asked about the wide receiver room and basically missing Josh Reynolds. And he started off by saying, we really tried to we wanted to, get Josh Reynolds back, but it didn't work out like that. And how he would feel less confident in the wide receiver room if we didn't have an Amon-Ra St. Brown, a Jameson Williams, a Penei Sewell, a Jared Goff. He put it on the team. And he basically said that the team was going to make up for Josh Reynolds not being on the team, for whatever that wide receiver 4 or 4 or 5 was lacking. The team, it is a team effort. I see you, Brad. I see what you doing. So I like that. I did like the team effort aspect, but I see what you're doing. And we'll see how that works out. I believe it. I believe it. We all say the same thing. That's why we talk about Jahmyr Gibbs. We talk about Sam Laporta, who was wide receiver number 2 on our team last year. Now, we expect him to be 3 after St. Brown and Jameson Williams, but basically, it's going to be a team effort. That's what it. So I got from that, we didn't replace Josh Reynolds with one guy. It's going to be a team effort. Will that come back to hurt us is the question. Somebody in my comment section today in the live chat was talking about, shout out to Rick, was talking about that the receivers we brought in could, if you bring Donovan Peoples-Jones, you bring Tim Patrick, and you bring Allen Robinson, if they get 200 yards apiece, you essentially replace Josh Reynolds. Now, you got a clutch gene as well, and I know you guys are going to disagree. He choked in the AFC title game. Josh was clutch more often than he wasn't. So we'll see. But I did like him addressing that. Somebody brought up Jared Goff. And this, I really love hearing this about JG because you can go back and check the archives. Wasn't as many YouTube creators as it is now. And there were only a few, if that were never lost faith in Jared Goff. He said that Jared Goff was the right guy. He talked about this was before the extension and how Jared Goff earned the extension. But even before that, he was the right guy and that he's never changed. He stayed the same and he worked and earned everything he got. I love that. I love, y'all get on me about how I come at Brad Holmes. But what I do love, I love a lot of stuff about him. I'm always going to question everything. But I love the fact that he has never not supported Jared Goff. He believes in Jared Goff more than anybody will that's outside that organization. And when some of you were trying to draft Malik Willis and some of you were trying to draft trade for Lamar Wilson and some of you were trying to do all of those things, and every single year you were trying to bring in a quarterback. It's funny how y'all come at me about my opinion and feelings, but y'all don't take an L with Jared Goff. He was never going anywhere. And I love the fact that he supported JG like that. Ray Agnew comes in and says, somebody asked about sending a message about paying your guys, taking care of your guys. And he said it sends messages to guys in the rest of the locker room that we take care of our guys. That when you pay a St. Brown, a Penei Sewell, a Jared Goff, a Taylor Decker, it sends a message that the Lions take care of their guys. They brought up Aleem McNeil and an extension and how it's in the infancy stages and that the season, at least on their end, will not deter whether talks continue. That if Aleem squashes that, then that's on him. But the season won't get in the way of dialogue if need be. But they are in the early stages. But with them, you never know what infancy is. We heard that Jared Goff and then we're like far on the deal, and then like 2 weeks later it was done. So you can go from it could be like infancy to born in a week. So we'll see how that works out. But that was good to hear, getting a deal done. He talked about this. I like this part too, because it's funny, man, how I love this channel. I love this channel. I love you guys in the comment section, the good ones, the bad ones. I love this dialogue because we get to share this, and sometimes we be hitting right, like we be on. Talked about the roster now versus the future, and how sometimes the Lions were guilty of holding on to players and that every player on the team had to earn their spot. We talked about Nate Sudfeld at the beginning of this and how Nate earned his spot. He literally, with that 8 minutes, Madonna got a song, it's called 5 Minutes to Save the World. He had 8 minutes to get on the team, right? I remember when he was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, and in 8 minutes, he earned his spot. And I like that because we talked about that earlier today, about how will Brad Holmes be willing to part ways with a draft pick or something like that if he didn't earn his spot, and how they're not holding on to guys anymore. So that was good to see. Talked about the long snapper and how the new long snapper made plays, and he was the best player. He basically was the better player. And I'm saying to myself, I'm thinking, how is a long snapper making plays? I mean, I just like, I believe him. I'm just like thinking about, okay, what else does he have to do? But so that's an interesting thing. Talked about Trevor Nowalski bringing him back and how he's basically a special teams ace, and how they did play a game of chicken last year when they put him on the practice squad, and they were hoping that he cleared waivers, or that, they waived him, and they were hoping that he didn't clear waivers, or he did, but he didn't. And they were kind of pinching themselves, but they knew that somebody was going to come get him. They had a good chance because of basically the special team ace he is. They talked about the kicker. Now, from what I got from this is Brad Holmes said they might bring in a kicker to put on a practice squad, like a veteran kicker, which I think they will, but how Jake Bates is getting better and not bringing in a kicker to compete with him actually bolstered his confidence, and that Brad Holmes is excited about the unknown. I was like, you a little crazy, ain't you? Like, we talked about it earlier. To play football, you got to be a little crazy. To be a fanatic of any sport, you got to be a little bit crazy, right? I consider myself a little bit crazy, but just that excitement of the unknown. And this guy, it really makes me, I don't know, man. It makes me feel kind of excited that we talked about Jake Bates in the offseason. I was on this guy. One of the first people to talk about him. I said, man, the Lions need to go after this guy. Just so happened Michael Badgley gets hurt. But I'm thinking like, man, listen, y'all, I just go by the eye test. I go by eye, stats, numbers, all of that stuff. And then I make a decision based on what I see. And to see what they saw, like Jake Bates is the real deal. He got to work on, keep getting better, but he's the real deal. And while we were like, oh, the Lions need to go get this guy, they were thinking the same thing. That is super cool, man. Talked about smart aggression, and Dan calls it control fury. And that got me thinking. He was talking about building the roster with this mentality. So I started thinking, okay, is this the time at this trade deadline that we'll see something? We've been getting teased with a move to take us over the top. Well, this one, if the Lions need that, will we do it? He talked about James Houston. That he has speed. He talked everything that he said he gets after the quarterback. I think, and you can disagree because I know you are in the comment section, I think James really, really, really had to earn his spot this year. You might disagree, but I think he did, based on the fact that Brad Holmes said that last preseason game, he really showed up. And I think it might have been a toss-up between Agude or Uku. But this guy, that he, in that brief time, he was able to win back the job. So it is what it is. Listen, I'm rooting for James. He plays for my team. We need to go get a Super Bowl. If he helps us do that, that's all I care about. Real talk. He talked about the free agent destination and how they had to kind of intrigue people to come here year one. He said even year two. But after how we finish year two and after year three, he said people are calling to come here. Kickers, wide receivers, that it was wide receivers agents. And when Badgley went down, kickers were calling like, yo, you need a kicker. Agents of kickers were calling. So we already knew that Detroit's going to be a free agent destination. He talked about that John Kaminsky will return, he's going to return. He's going to help this team. So they have full. So that means Kaminsky was never going to get traded. He just never, I would have been hurt. Kaminsky now is like, Jamal Williams, like that type of what he means to the team. So John Kaminsky was never in danger of getting traded. If you believe a guy can help you the end of the season, I think he was never at risk for getting cut, in my opinion. I think it would have been a surprise to keep him or to cut him. Talked about, I'll save the most important to last. He talked about Tim Patrick and Allen Robinson. One of these guys will be wide receiver 5. It's just a matter of learning the playbook, getting acclimated to the offense. It's either going to be Tim Patrick, Allen Robinson. There's a really good chance that we could have 6 wide receivers on the active roster. Maybe we drop a Kendall Vildor, one of those guys, and we put Tim Patrick and Allen Robinson on the active roster. Listen, you already know what I'm going to say. Back in 2020, it's a different conversation. But when you look at the collective of this whole team, and yes, I'm the same guy as yesterday, but when you look at the collective, I'm just like, when you look at the collective of this team, and if St. Brown and Jameson and all them guys have to carry the weight, and you put in an Allen Robinson or Tim Patrick, and they can just give us just a little bit, that might be enough. For me, I'm just tired of the way this is done, but I'm just a dude sitting in his basement talking about his favorite team. He talked about the fan base, and I immediately thought about us. I thought about me. I thought about you, how we go at it, how we love, we hate each other, the whole, how you subscribe, you unsubscribe, right? If I say something you don't like, you go, but you find your way back, some of you, right? He said that it was no disrespect to any other fan base, but we are the most passionate fans he's ever seen. He talked about how he was a bit naive of that his uncle or somebody, former player said, listen, man, I think he used to play here, said, listen, Detroit, they love their team. They love their guys, right? And he was like, they maybe on the field, but he talked about being seen in public. And when we were 3-13-1, how people were backing him and rooting him and knew who he was. And I thought that was super cool. Here's my favorite part. Favorite part of this whole thing. You know what I'm about to say. If you've seen it, you know what I'm about to say. Said, what's your expectations for the Lions this year? He said, no hesitation, no blinking, firm, with the utmost confidence to win a Super Bowl. How many times have we heard Brad and Dan speak? Remember back in 2021, a retool, right? Well, now we've rebuilt this thing. You would have never heard that 3 years ago. 3 years ago, nope. Last year, Brad used to tiptoe around this stuff. Not this time. What's your expectations for 2020? It reminds me of, what's your prediction for the fight? Prediction? Yes, prediction. Pain. A Rocky 3 reference. You know I got to get it in there. Without hesitation to win the Super Bowl. And the look he had was like, you got something to say? Did I stutter? It was one of them things. And you know what, Brad? We with you. That's our expectation too. 100%. We've been waiting long enough. It's in your hands. It's in Dan's hands. It's in Sheila's hands. And we're going to support this team all the way. Whether we agree, disagree on the takes or whatever, we're going to support this team. I ain't going nowhere. I might cry. I might complain. I might do all that stuff, but I ain't going nowhere. Neither are you. And we are waiting. And how great is it going to be to say the Detroit Lions, your Super Bowl champion, Detroit Lions? See, what I realized by doing this channel and going to these games and spending time and meeting all you wonderful people at Uno's or on the road or in FANATIC is that this is more than a game. It is more than football. That's why I get so upset. That's why you get so upset. It's more than that. It is more than that. It's so many things that this team carries on its back, that it's more than just a game, right? So that was my favorite part. 20-minute video, man. A lot of stuff to go over. Appreciate you for watching this long. Hopefully you utilize double speed like I do. If you are watching right now, put Hashtag Super Bowl bound. I question everything. I will continue to question everything. I will not agree on every move that anyone makes. That's just how I'm built. But I trust Brad Holmes. I do. He falters, he wavers, but we all do. He's not perfect, but we're not either. He does miss, but so do I. But what I believe is that he is one Super Bowl win away from being by far cemented in GOAT status. He's right here. He's right here. In 3 short years has done what we've been waiting for most of our lives to see. In 92, I was going to middle school. Now I got a son in high school. So appreciate y'all, man. Last video tonight. We back. Football is back. And the Detroit Lions, without hesitation, their goal for 2024, just let that sink in, is to win a Super Bowl. Like, we're just getting used to hearing Detroit and Super Bowl in the same sentence, let alone win one. Man, let me know what you thought of the press conference. And also want to celebrate. I want to celebrate something. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere, because this is very important to me. I'm in Motor City Mania territory now. But don't worry, it's not going to be long. Just give me a few more minutes. A few more minutes of your time. It's like a little podcast. I want to show you something, because I know not a lot of people know this. All right, check this out. Check this out. I want to show you something. This right here is the Detroit Lions YouTube channel. And they just hit something today that's unbelievable. 200,000 subscribers right here. The Detroit Lions hit 200,000 subscribers. Why is you like, Derek, that's cool, man. That's cool. Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon, right? Why is that a big deal? Because when they were hired, when Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes were hired, don't ask me how, I remember this. I just do. I'm built like that. I don't know why. My family calls me the date master. We had 19,000 subscribers on the Detroit Lions. The day they were hired, we had 19K. We have 10 times that since they were hired. We are above quite a few NFL teams' YouTube channel. We have more than the LA Rams, and they have a Super Bowl, and they have our all quarterback. So I just wanted to make sure I shouted them out before I got off, because that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So let me know what you think. Thank you for rocking with me this long. Again, hashtag Super Bowl bound. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions. Again, we on the same team, and I really do appreciate and love each and every one of you.